Hey folks, Jason Dukes, Dirt Race Life. In this video for our street stock build, we're going to determine how much anti-dive we want to put in our front end and where we want to put it, incorporate it into our upper control arm mounts, and then mount them onto our frame. Stick around. So let's do a brief explanation of anti-dive as we're going to apply it to our car. Looking from the fender well at the car, so from the side, let's imagine that we're looking end on at the lower control arm. Here's the ball joint coming up out of the lower control arm. It's rotating along that line at 0 degrees. Let's take this upper ball joint here, and let's just draw it at 0 degrees, rotating along that line, has a ball joint here, okay? There's a spindle in between them, right? All right, so there's a rotor, and there's a brake caliper, okay? When we apply braking pressure to this car, we're trying to slow this rotor down in this direction, opposite of like acceleration. Right? So like you was going in reverse. So the nose of the car in this direction. So that rotor being twisted in that direction, that means that caliper is seeing force up. It's transferring that into the spindle. And so the spindle is transferring load into these control arms, forward on the upper control arm and rearward on the bottom control arm. Remember, as I'm trying to slow this tire down, the caliper is holding it back, and so that's where that pressure is coming from. If I'm 0 and 0, this twisting force that is happening is not pushing an arm up or down. It is simply just twisting on them to the frame, and just the frame itself is holding them. However, here's where anti-dive comes in. If you take this upper arm and you set it on an angle uphill toward the front. Now, I exaggerated that. But if you set this on an angle uphill, and so here's this arm, uphill in relationship to the bottom, and now I'm not parallel, I have a wedge here, all right? And there's a percentage calculation that you can make based on where this instant center is from these two. We're not going to go that deep here, we don't need to. But this angle right here, if I pull forward, so I'm putting forward pressure when I brake, that's pulling that upper control arm downward because of the angle. So the angle's in this direction. If I pull forward, it twists it downward. All right, so think about that. If I pull this upper control arm down, I got a spindle, I'm connected to the lower control arm, I'm pulling down on the lower control arm. That's like I'm adding spring rate. I'm assisting that spring when I do that. So I've got a spring that's in behind here that's holding this lower up. And now when I apply brake, I'm getting assistance at holding this car up. All right? So for us, 4 degrees on the right front lets us create a spring rate modification during braking. All right? And then if you're not braking, it doesn't exist. All right? So, and that's anti-dive. Pro dive would be the exact opposite. Pro dive would be if you turn this the other direction. If you think about it now, if I pull forward and this angle's in this direction, it's trying to take this control arm and go up. Well, if it's going up with this upper control arm, it's pulling up on the bottom. And now I'm compressing this spring more by adding the brake. So you can see the difference between anti-dive and pro dive. Remember, up on the front is anti-dive. And that's what we're after. We're only going to do this on the right front, not on the left front. And the reason for that is this. We have a car. I'm going to do a top-down view. I'm going to draw a right front, a left front tire, right rear, left rear. Okay, so here's our chassis. We're going to put 4 degrees over here, and we're going to put 0 over here. I'm going to run 3-wheel, or four-wheel brake. If I turn on three-wheel brake, I'm only applying AntiDive to my left front. And if I was to put, 4 degrees of AntiDive into only this left front, but not this right front, well, I'm turning on three-wheel brake to help me turn on a track that is really tacky, really hooked up. I'm struggling to get the car into the turn. I don't like to run three-wheel brakes, but I keep it as an option when I get into a tight situation. You got a bad setup on the car, you need options. That gives you options. And I consider it a good night if I never turn three-wheel brakes on. That means I hit my setup. But it is an option. And if you have AntiDive and you're adding spring rate to the left front and not to the right front, you're doing the exact opposite on turn entry of what you need to do for the reason you're using three-wheel brakes. The reason for that is because of this. I get load, of course your load goes across. So if I increase my spring rate on my left front, then on entry that means that I have increased my right rear load, and on entry I have decreased my left rear load. And that's the exact opposite of what I'm going to need. If the track is too tight for me and I'm trying to get my car to turn, I'm not wanting to increase my right rear, I would want to increase my left rear. And so for that reason, this would work against me if I was to have AntiDive on my left front and I went to three-wheel brakes. For that reason, I'll leave it at 0, where that I'll give up, if I have to give up my 4 degrees of AntiDive right here on my right front, I will, but I'm not going to go in the opposite direction for the left front. And so for that reason, I run 0 and 4 degrees. We're going to run, I believe we're going to run an 850, I believe, on the left front. We're going to run a 750 on the right front. This 4 degrees of AntiDive, the way to think about this is basically in the initial entry, during the braking, I'm going to make that 750 act more like, say, a 800 or something during that entry, but then I'm going to go back to that softer rate when I come off of that brake. That's the way to think about like how you're going to use AntiDive, on a street stock car in order to enter the curve. So that would only apply if you used four-wheel brakes. So I went ahead and did my driver's side with the 0 over here, and I was just going to show on this passenger side, we're going to set this to 4 degrees. And again, it's 4 degrees, it's up in the front, it's down in the back. And I'm just going to use an angle finder. I've already confirmed that these control arms that I've purchased, the top is parallel to the holes. And I've already locked this in at 4 degrees. And another point, I hadn't noted this before, but we're using the K6136 ball joints instead of the K5208s. So the Camaros and the GM A-body spindles, they are a 10-degree taper, and they would run like a 5208 ball joint. We're going to these truck ball joints, which are taller. They're about 1 inch taller in a stock ball joint. So it's an inexpensive option to get a taller ball joint. But keep in mind that this ball joint has a larger diameter shaft. And so even though it's 10 degrees and this is 10 degrees, you are going to need to run a reamer if you want to get better engagement. Stock, if you don't ream this spindle, you will only get a 1/2 inch of taper engagement, and there's 1 inch of spindle material here. Now I usually don't go all the way through till I get full engagement, but I do go down to about 3/4 of an inch. And an additional option is that it gives you some room if you're trying to make a fine adjustment on your angles on your upper control arms. You can take it deeper from where you're at. But I've already reamed this down to where that I get 3/4 of an inch of engagement on the shaft of this ball joint. And so I'm going to drop this in and put the nut on it where I know it's firmly attached and not riding up. We'll see where we are. See if I've got enough room there. Yeah, I think so. And after we spot weld it, we'll take our jig off and we'll weld it up. Let's see where we're at here. Probably, yeah, we did pretty good. So sitting at 4.3. So we'll make a little bit of adjustment here. I need to trim a little bit more off. So we'll do that right quick. Let's see where we're at now. On the 4 degrees right here, I've trimmed several times on it, put a bevel into it, and then finally I've arrived. So I got her all locked in and she's sitting at 3.8. Right there it is, 4 degrees. Remember, on these upper control arms like this, this 6-inch center one with the 2 angles running, because I have AntiDive in it, when you're taking this measurement, you can't just take the measurement on one tube. Take the measurement on both tubes, and it's the average between them, and that's because you created this compound angle between your AntiDive angle versus your angle that's in the arm where they come together towards the ball joint in the middle. And so, like for me, I'm looking at, here is 11.2 and 9. So 11.2 and 9 is 10.1. I'm fine with that. So what we'll do here is we'll put a couple spots in place and then we'll pull the bracket off. We don't want to weld much because the 90 degrees that we've got here, we'll pull that over if we put too much on one side. Pick you up later. So what I'll do here is just pull that out of the way. And take the cut off wheel and cut our jig loose. Cut our jig loose. Let's just make sure we're on 90 still. 89.8. I'm fine with that. It's going to pull over that last bit. So I'm going to go back and forth, and I'm probably going to let this cool a couple times. And switch side to side, let it cool, and what I'll end up with is overall I'll have 2 layers, 2 passes, just good and stiff, and put it together, it'll be good to go. So I've got my passes in. Take your time on this stuff. If you're unhappy with it, take it loose, do it again. When you burn it in, get it right, get it thick. I burned, I think, at like 260 inches a minute with like 19.5 bolts on that final pass, and tried to really get me a nice, heavy fillet going in right here, because they're going to get, and these are going to get bent up. That's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're going to get bent up. If you have a good base, they're going to get twisted. You'll straighten them out. Get your front end straightened out. You know, if they get too bad, you cut them off and you rework it. But let's set it back up here. So our front mounts are on, we are locked in, and the next thing that we would go to on the front end for this car would be steering sector, idler arms, center link, where that we could set up our Ackerman and our bump steer. However, I don't believe that that's going to be the right move for this car next. I think this is the point where that we need to go to the roll cage. I've been waiting for a new bender to come in, a JD squared bender, and it has arrived. I'm really excited about that. And we're going to switch over and we're going to do the roll cage on this car. And it's both because I'm excited about a new bender and building the roll cage with it, but also these front horns, they can move some. That's a lot of weight to put on it, and I want to firm all that up and get my roll cage tied to them before I go to that next step, where I'm not getting any issues from that. This coil car is coming on, and it is likely 10 or 20 videos away from really being down on the ground and looking like a race car, but we're going to get there. And if you like what you see, let me know. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're looking for. And please subscribe. Thank y'all.